so. And before we get into the meat of the matter, let's just settle in. Let's feel that presence of God animating our experience in the moment. There's only one presence, one power, one love active in my life and in the world today. God the good, omnipotent. No matter what my mind says, there's only God. And with that thought in mind, we're going to invite Lillian, if she'd be willing to share for us today's daily word as soon as I get it up here on the screen.
Of course. And the word today is love. I give and receive love with gratitude and joy. This Advent season, I turn my attention to the myriad ways love expresses within and all around me. I feel called to share blessings of love with people in all circumstances and receive their blessings of love in kind. I may join in festive celebrations, sharing cheer and fellowship with friends and colleagues. I practice patience and understanding, especially during moments of frustration as I go about my Christmas preparations. I feel compassion for those who struggle during the holidays and reach out to them with support and caring. These are some of the ways I show love to others. When I receive their time, attention, and gifts with gratitude, I am letting them show their love to me. And from John 13, I give you a new commandment that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another.
Thank you, Lillian. So this is a theme for today, this Sunday of Advent. I give and receive love with gratitude and joy. Let's affirm that together. I
I
give
give
and
Give
receive
and
and
love,
receive
receive love
love
gratitude,
with
with
and joy.
gratitude
gratitude and
and
joy.
joy.
Nice, thank you. So, for our newcomers, would somebody be willing to just to share what your thoughts are about what this lesson is that we're studying here, the great demonstration? What does that mean to any of us? Any thoughts about the great demonstration?
Did you ask the newcomers? Is it, or
I'm asking the old
specific?
comers to help the
Oh, good.
newcomers.
Okay.
The old
Yeah.
comers.
Okay.
Well, I'm an old comer. I'm an old comer, and I'm going to say this. I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay,
sure, but I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
fair enough. Anybody else? Well, my sense is that the great demonstration is talking about how we demonstrate in our lives the truth that there's only one presence, one power, one love. We demonstrate the truth of the Christ within in our daily lives and more explicitly in our consciousness. That's what I get from this. So the reason I raise this is that we've been studying um, these series of lessons since last January, and we have gone through the first 5 lessons, and this is the 6th. And we're in paragraph 36, and I believe there's 42 total. So we're actually near the end of this particular chapter. So I just wanted to just give a little bit of a sense to newcomers what the heck we're up to here. Our process is that someone reads a paragraph and then we just discuss it. And we're here to learn. I'm here to learn from each other. I look around the room and I see years and years of spiritual wisdom, and I greedily want to take advantage of that and hear what everyone has to say. So, any other thoughts before we move on? Any thoughts from the last lesson that we did a couple weeks ago? All right. So last week we read paragraph. We finished with paragraph 35, oops, this way, 35, we talked about how to put off our old way of thinking and to move into this new way of thinking that Jesus was the representative of in practical reality. And so we're on paragraph 36. Who would be willing to read paragraph 36?
Leo will.
Oh,
I don't think you can. I don't think it's fair to volunteer other people.
No, he was waiting for me to suggest that.
I see.
I will. The
Okay.
divine law is
Thanks, Leo.
constantly the divine law is constantly in operation, working out the adjustment of all things in perfect order and harmony. Everything in life works towards the observance of this law. So long as man believes himself a sinner, falling short of the perfection inherent within him, he is disobedient and causes friction in harmony, with resultant loss of power and dominion. Man's endeavor to be a law to himself has formed conditions which bring him sorrow, suffering, and dissolution. The resolving of these conditions by divine law into their primal elements is not vengeance or punishment by God, but rather releasing of life and substance from error. By so doing, the integrity of the whole is preserved. There are in reality no destructive forces. What man sometimes calls a destructive force that seems to bring him punishment is actually divine love purifying and protecting and preparing him for a more perfect expression. The old error conditions must be dissolved before the new conditions based on God's plan of good can manifest.
Thanks, Leo.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, what do we read in this? What do we hear? What strikes us?
What is that sentence? What man sometimes calls a destructive force?
Good question. Any
That's
thoughts
kind of
about that?
hard.
Okay. Does anyone have any insights into what this might be telling us? Yeah, Janet.
I have a firm and committed belief about the destructing force, and it's in my head. You know, I do believe that we carry so much in our unconscious that no matter how much of a churchgoer we are or try to be a good person, there's a lot going on up there that is based on other input, and it can prompt actions that are not in my best interest. And I've been working on this for years because I find it very disturbing until I started reading Myrtle's own writings that this was something invisible that I had no power over. It was something in me, part of me, who believed a different set of things than my conscious self believes or my Christ consciousness believes. And it it has and continues to be very destructive. And I want it to be done. I want to be out in the light and just being living a peaceful life, not having these hits that come from somewhere. And earlier in the paragraph, there's a sentence with the word sinner in it. And I don't like that at all. I think I'm certainly not committing any sins. I'm not doing sinful things, but I am prompted and pushed by power, by something in my psyche that is not what I believe consciously. And it's my path to be on the journey to get that straightened out. So that's my share.
What is that footnote on number 5, the divine law? I mean, I think I know what divine law is, but do we have the footnote there?
Let's see if I can find. Okay, divine. Here it is. Somebody want to read that?
I will. The divine law. Divine law is the orderly working out of the principles of being or divine ideals to express and manifestation throughout man. By keeping the law of right thought works in perfect harmony with divine law and thus paves his way into spiritual consciousness. Now, thank you, Marty. Can you go back up there to where we were? And then in that, everything in life works towards the observance of this divine law, perfect order, harmony. And then I'm going to skip the one that Janet doesn't like about the sinner and go to man's endeavor to be a law to himself has formed conditions which bring him sorrow, suffering, and disillusion. So it's almost like, when we think we're separate from God and not God in motion or in action or in manifestation, that's when we get into our heads and become maybe part of the egoic man or egoic, letting our ego take over, as opposed to just being in that flow and awareness and consciousness of who we are and the divine law of it.
Great. Anybody else? One of the things go ahead.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I like the venture one.
Yeah,
That
please.
is what I've seen with myself, and just actually continuing what Claudia said, that endeavor to be the Lord to himself would for me be whatever happened to me, I assign values and I give them an emotional load. So good or bad or nothing. But it's like you say pendulum, and it's never quiet. So I think that is what causes us a lot of suffering. And to be able to consider all possibilities in an equal way would make that we are more peaceful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Leo.
Thank you, Leo.
One of
Well,
the
I know when I first came into this, the idea of saying, "Thy will be done," was really difficult for me. I was not willing to give up control to something outside myself. And, I think from the time we're maybe 2 years old, when we start to develop our own me, I can do it, we developed a healthy self or a healthy ego or a healthy, going back to Emily, she would call it personality. So now as we've come to this stage in our life of enlightenment, now we go back to understanding there's something greater and we are a part of it and we can trust it. But it's hard to unlearn that which we've learned for several decades.
The last sentence on that, where the old error conditions must be dissolved before the new condition can continue. I'm reminded of a sermon that Reverend Stan Hampson gave, and it was talking about a lot of us carry baggage around with us wherever we go. And I know some people that the first thing they've got to tell you is about all the things that have happened to them. And I think when we can get rid of that baggage and get that out of our mind, we progress. And I think in some ways this is what this means.
Yeah.
Thanks, Veldon. One thing I wanted to point out that goes back to what Janet was saying, is that these destructive forces, how things that happen to us in life, how we deal with them is entirely our choice. So in the intentional living work that John Donovan and I do, we have a saying, which is life happens for me, not to me. And so the way I interpret this is whatever happens to us, as long as I'm deciding that on my own personal, separate, self-sense understanding, I'm going to have friction, inharmony, and resultant loss of power and dominion. But when I look at those things through the loving eyes of the divine, then I can find out, okay, what is happening here to teach me? What can I learn from it? How can I befriend this rather than fight it?
Where's the silver lining?
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me, because it's Christmas, right? And it's time for presents. And it reminds me of those two little kids. One was the pessimist and one was the optimist. And the parents got each of them a gift. And they both wanted horses or ponies. And so they put in one room a pony and they gave it to the kid who was kind of negative. And he went in and he looked at the pony and he said, "It's not big enough. It's not the color I wanted either." And then they in the other room for the optimistic kid, there was just a whole pile, 3/4 of the room was full with horse poop. And the kid looked at the horse poop and got in there and started digging and digging. And the parents were surprised at this response and said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "There's got to be a pony in here somewhere." I'm sure some of you have heard that before.
Yes,
for indulging me.
But it's accurate.
It is accurate. That's the window and the door, right? When the door shuts, don't keep looking at the door. Just where's the window,
And this all goes back, as we've been saying since we began this study, it all goes back to consciousness. What am I aware of? What do I intend to be aware of? What do I want for myself? How do I want to be, knowing that there's only one presence, one power, knowing that the divine law is constantly in operation?
Want is a good word, but I think I translated it into claim. What can I claim for myself? Because it's there. It's just that, if I'm not claiming it, or if, as Veldon's saying, if I'm just claiming all the stuff that's, defines me negatively, that's, what can I claim for myself that's out there that's good?
Yeah.
Marty, now that we've discussed this paragraph, can we read it again?
Sure. You want to take a shot, Lillian?
I will, because I just feel that, it's now that we've mulled it over, some of these things might pop out better. The
Okay.
divine law is constantly in operation, working out the adjustment of all things in perfect order and harmony. Everything in life works toward the observance of this law. So long as man believes himself a sinner, falling short of the perfection inherent within him, he is disobedient and causes friction in harmony with resultant loss of power and dominion. Boy, that's strong. Man's endeavor to be a law to himself has formed conditions which bring him sorrow, suffering, and disillusion. The resolving of these conditions by divine law into their primal elements is not vengeance or punishment by God, but rather releasing of life and substance from the error. By so doing, the integrity of the whole is preserved. There are in reality no destructive forces. What man sometimes calls a destructive force that seems to bring him punishment is actually divine love purifying and protecting and preparing him for a more perfect expression. The old error conditions must be dissolved before the new conditions based on God's plan of God can manifest.
Thank you, Lillian.
Yeah, I think we need to kind of slow down or repeat these always again.
It's almost a form of meditation in the sense of, if we had taken a paragraph and if we were alone, if we were by ourselves and not in this wonderful group, you would just maybe read that one paragraph and then you would meditate on it. If you were a good truth student, well, that's, as opposed to just reading it like we're reading a book to get to the end of the chapter. So
Right.
Lillian.
We might even take it one sentence at a time. John?
That's what I was going to do. That so long as man believes, I'm reading it so long as I believe myself a sinner, falling short of the perfection inherent within me. I am disobedient and cause friction in harmony with resultant loss and dominion. Judgment, blame. As long as I was in the critical mind, and that thing you said, nothing happens to me, everything happens for me. Sometimes I don't like that. It's like whatever's happening right now. No, something else. Give me no. And it does lead me to ownership. Um, yeah. So, number one, thank you guys for being here. I'm glad I'm here, and with people who are seeking and looking, and I this is the first time I've read Fillmore. I've Florence Scovel Shinn, Neville Goddard, Ernest Holmes, but I'm looking forward to more insights and expansion.
I liked how you did that, John, because when you personalized that, or when I followed you in personalizing that, it had a much more, it hit, it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I felt that. I wasn't just reading a sentence. I was like feeling like that. Okay, get that, Claudia. Yeah, when you do that, that's what happens.
And my experience of my perception of sinner is somebody else telling me I did it wrong. Somebody else saying, "Oh, that's a sin." Well, I was raised Catholic, so we have them. We got them all lined out. Venal, mortal. We got them all categorized. And then, so I was told that was a sin. What I've come to experience is it was an experience that led me in a different direction. If I was willing to feel the results of that, whatever that choice was. In my association with science of mind, one of their precepts is there's either a call for love or an expression of love, no exceptions. So I've been grappling with this what's a call for love and what's an expression of love. And this is very helpful.
Good.
In Unity, we've learned one of the first things I learned in Unity that made me feel better was sin just means falling below the mark.
Falling below the mark.
I just didn't hit the arrow in the bullseye. It's an archery term, and I just fell below the mark. And I don't know, de-emotionalized or it made it less critical, like a personal failing, but just like the potential to do better.
A learning.
Yeah.
All this discussion reminds me of something that Diane and I quite often joke about, and that is life happens while you're making other plans. And I also realize when things happen that suddenly concern you, or in a way, perhaps a negative way, or you realize how they can affect you. Oftentimes, being able to just put that up on the shelf and forget about it for a while, and then suddenly an answer comes to you as to how to deal with this. And I think that's, in its own way, divine order displaying itself if we just can put it aside and let it happen.
There's a great line, Veldin, from the Tao Te Ching, which says, "Do you have the patience to let your mud settle until everything becomes clear?"
Very, very good.
I can tell you something. I had the great good fortune since we've met together in the past 2 weeks that I had like a 4-hour visit with a Tibetan Buddhist monk. And I pulled out my binder with these pages and looked for the perspective of what I perceived to be a very holy person. And I just found what I had written about this that he said, and I don't know that I've gotten it yet, but he suggested that old error conditions, if they were really old, we're talking, mine were 4 years old. So now I'm 75, and I have been carrying the fallout from that experience all these years and trying to dissolve it. And he put it that some very core basic trauma needs to be accepted and then worked with, and that it's in the working with it that one grows spiritually and is able to help other people, because there is such a core defective perspective, and that they're all about not, no either or, black, white, everything's special. I don't quite understand all that he said, but since I saw him, I have been trying to create an affirmative visualization of what comes up that's coming from that source. And I am fighting back, and I am saying no, and I am saying, I've been waiting to be healed and fixed. And now I'm saying you can fix a lot of things going back a long time, but some things cannot be fixed. They have to be accepted and then managed. And I've been in the managing phase this past week, and I've done better. I've done actually much better, because I'm not allowing those voices to keep me saying, I don't know, I can't, I'm not able to do that. Telling lies to myself and telling lies to anyone. Well, people who know me know I'm lying, but they just say, that's not true. You don't want to. And then maybe I don't want to, but I don't want to for a reason, not just because I'm lazy. So we'll see where this goes. It's some people have things, I think, that are easy to dissolve. I mean, they're they're tangible enough and understandable enough to dissolve them. And if I had the many thousands of dollars back that I've spent on therapy over the years with trying to learn how to dissolve this package, I would be a rich woman now, because there was no doctor, no PhD, nobody out there even in the Jungian world, nobody was saying no. That was a purpose of your soul. Your soul came in with that. Your soul went through that for a reason. But you're not using it. You're just trying to dissolve it. And now I've made friends with it. And I'm saying you're going to work for your shelf space in my head. And we'll see. Work in progress.
So, Janet, would you be willing to consider the possibility that that's riches beyond any money you could have in the bank?
In a way, yes, in a way, but I'm just so I'm really I don't want to use the word resentful. I know that's not a good word, but I mean, I wish I had gotten some of this 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I hate to say that I feel a lot of I hope God forgives me for the gifts that I've wasted, because I know that I've wasted a lot of gifts, and all because of this issue. And I knew I was wasting them, and I sought help. And the help wasn't what the Buddhist monk said to me. It was different. It was more, it was also, if it was a spiritual teacher I was talking to, it was about, you'll be healed. You can overcome things. He said, no, that's part of your soul's journey. It's not going to disappear. So you know what, Marty, I'm going to be happier going forward. But what have I got? 5 years, 10 years, I just feel like I wish I had some of the past back.
Right. But would you be willing to consider that all of us only have one day at a time?
Yes, I know that to be true.
So just for today, I befriend my old negative voices. And that leads us to that possibility that last sentence that Belden pointed out, the error conditions must be dissolved. Now, dissolved here doesn't mean disappeared. What it means here is that my grasping them and making them true is what dissolves. And letting those beliefs become, see, when I do this, my new Zoom thing puts a hand up. Isn't that funny? It's the old Buddhist term. I detach from the belief that these things have any power. And that is what allows the new condition based on God's plan of good to manifest. That's the way I understand dissolution here.
I think that's what the Buddhist guy was saying. He just said it in a different way. Can you remember what you just said about dissolving?
No, but this is being recorded, so we can always go back and listen.
I can look at it. Okay.
Another thing that occurs to me is I think back on the issues that I've had through my lifetime. There have been some issues that I prayed to have resolved a certain way, and they didn't come out the way I had hoped that they would. But as I think about it, I think these are obstacles in the path, and but as I look at the direction we took after that, and never really resolved a certain issue, I think those obstacles occur, but the pathway is presented, and we're able to continue on, and in a way that resolves those things, and so dragging that around with you doesn't do you any good. But as I look back at all the solutions, things that have come about without even working on it, is I think part of the process here.
Sure, thanks. Great. So I want to go back and check in with Lillian. Is that rereading and the subsequent conversation helpful?
Exactly. Because it just, for me, it goes too fast. So I'm glad that we stopped and worked on this one. And we got a lot of input too.
Well, and I appreciate you speaking up and asking for that.
Well, I should have done it long ago.
Beat yourself up.
You've been a sinner, Lillian.
Well, this happened in a group I'm in of poetry readers. And, when I finally got them to read the poem twice, they said, "Oh, I really got a lot of different, a lot more out of it." So I kept wanting, well, anyway, I finally spoke up.
Well, again, I appreciate that. Okay, so anything else, or can we move on to the next one? All right, so the next section is what is the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus, a quote from St. Paul. Who will read paragraph 37 and the bullet points?
I'll read it.
All right, thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
So, Kevin.
No, Kevin, yeah. It wasn't me. I was like, oh.
Oh, Kevin, are you doing it?
Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm going to
cool.
make an
Thanks.
exception. The raising of man's consciousness to the superconscious realm or the Christ mind frees him from the law of sin and of death. Romans chapter 8, verse 2. That is the effect, death, and dissolved by the removal of the cause, sin. A new law, the law of right thinking, the law of spirit of life in Jesus Christ, is set into action. The new cause will set into operation, bringing forth eternal life instead of death. When the following conditions are met: A, man must understand the relationship that exists between God and man himself, between himself and his fellow man, and between himself and the universe. B, all men must be guided by divine wisdom in thought, word, and deed. C, universal love must be expressed in each heart. D, each man must be conscious of all as much as he is of self.
Whoa, thanks, Kev.
Thanks, Kevin. That is
You're welcome.
just like put that on a note card and pin it on your mirror because that's the path here.
Let's
Yes.
before we comment on it, let's go and see what let's see number 6, footnote number 6 says about the superconscious. Kev, can you read this? Do you mind?
Nope. Too small.
There you go.
I think I'm cutting off part of it. Okay, the superconscious realm, a state of consciousness based on true ideas, on an understanding and realization of spiritual truth. The connection between the superconscious mind and the conscious mind is established within by meditation, by going into the silence, and by speaking the word.
Okay, thank you. So the superconscious mind in Charles Fillmore's hierarchy of consciousness, there's the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. The superconscious is the divine mind. And he says that here, the raising of conscious to superconscious or Christ's mind. So thank you for that. So thoughts, comments, questions? Number 37.
I think this ties back to like when we were talking about Jesus. And I struggle with that whole Jesus thing. So Jesus of Nazareth, the man, Jesus the Christ, the consciousness of, that we're developing in ourselves through these, 4 bullet points here, kind of is clarifying for me, and I think that sometimes when I'm reading things or when I'm hearing people talk, I'm not sure that in their mind there's a distinction between the two. Jesus, the man, who then we talked about transformation the last time we spoke. We were talking about transformation, and that's what Jesus did. And so Jesus of Nazareth became Jesus the Christ as he transformed through this process. That's what I got out of it.
Okay. Thank you. Other thoughts, questions?
Seems like a daunting list. And as I was hearing people talk in the Science of Mind, the minister always used to give us 4 of the, I think they had 12 principles. There is no oppositional power to the power of God. All thinking is creative and influential. There's either a call for love or an expression of love. And then the one that, like, I am whole, perfect, complete, just the way I am. And I've had glimpses of this, intermittent glimpses. So, and I'm curious what other people have to say. How you hear. I know that when I read something, I'm reading it through my filter, and then when other people read it, they read it through their filter. And anything I say, my goal is to add to the whole, and then expand from what I hear you say too.
Well, I thought as you were speaking that we might consider what you said earlier and look at, for example, this one, say, I must understand the relationship that exists between God and me, between myself and others, and between myself and the universe.
Oh my God, yeah.
And personalize it.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took us 6 lessons to learn this and have a stranger come in and teach us this, but hey, that's the way it works. That's the great demonstration.
We'll call it the Donna.
Yeah.
Does anybody know anybody that has made it up into the superconscious realm and is still walking around eating lunch with you? This seemed very, I've read this before and heard this before, and I think, yeah, who gets there? It seems unattainable.
Maybe
Does anybody know anybody?
Maybe Mother Teresa.
You don't know her. She was different and special. I'm talking about friends of Claudia that really know someone that you can say that person is got the Christ consciousness. They've got it. I know a lot of people, and I don't know anybody I could give that credit to.
Well, what does that mean?
I wouldn't.
How would you know?
Well, the Christ mind is going to come up with a lot of different takes on things than the average committee or conversation or I think I would know if I was talking to somebody that was talking from their Christ mind and superconscious level. I just don't know anybody like that.
And I think it's a continuum. I think we're all on this continuum of each one of those 4 points at various levels. And what Jesus of Nazareth did was he got to the end of the continuum,
Okay.
and so did maybe Mary, maybe, Mother Teresa, maybe the Dalai Lama. But I think it's a continuum. And you know what? I think I do know somebody that did this. And it was Ralph's grandmother, and but you wouldn't know her because she just lived a very quiet life and a very giving life. But it was her consciousness that, that you could tell that you were in her presence, that she was not, she wasn't egoic. She wasn't mean. She didn't criticize. I mean, yeah, so I think I do, but I think for us, me, it's a continuum, and I'm working my way up that mountain, in each one of those 4 points.
I think you're absolutely right, Claudia. And I think that what you just said about the grandmother who lived a quiet life and developed these abilities or this level to live in the real world, which takes a certain amount of ego, and to be successful in the real world takes a lot of ego, and it kind of works against that goal. And unless you're someone that is gifted to be able to live apart and not be part of the mainstream, I think it's just a very tall order to to uh,
Yeah,
to be
I
on the
think
continuum.
I think you should look at the stranger that acts as being the stranger in a strange land, or like some books say, the Buddha at the pump station, or just whenever you encounter someone, keep the Buddha mind or the Christ mind in the first encounter, because then it shows that bit of enlightenment in that person in that encounter. My idea. Thank
You're
you.
right, Leo. It's hard to know. You don't know. You don't know because you don't know what's in somebody's mind. You know, you might, you might see their actions and get a sense of what it is, and then you go, nope, not that far along on the continuum, buddy. Keep working on it. But sometimes the people who are towards the end of this continuum aren't standing up and saying me, me, me. In fact, it's probably the opposite. Maybe it's Mackenzie Scott, who's given away $7 billion so far and hopes to give away the rest of her money by the time that she's dies. I don't know because I don't know her, but you know.
John, were you going to say something?
Um, I had a mentor. He was a Catholic priest who got told he couldn't be a priest anymore. And I met him. He at that time he was a realtor, and I was talking to him. He went to Africa to proselytize, went into an indigenous culture and learned instead of taught, and brought that message back. I think he was in Chico, and the bishop told him that he needed to like talk from the Bible, not from his own experience. Anyway, they defrocked him, and we were walking across the street one time, and I want to say a Down syndrome young boy, as we crossed the street, kind of broke in between us and went on with this big smile on his face, and he said to me, "Oh, there's Jesus." And I thought, oh my God. And that, I don't know if this adds to the conversation, but I don't know. It's like it got me seeing things differently. So, and one more thing, the Buddha, I don't know, I think I heard this on PBS. The Buddha's realization when he woke up underneath the Bodhi tree was everybody else was already enlightened. They were waiting for him. So I don't know. I'm still seeking, and those two things get me contemplative.
Good.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to this paragraph, and the bold statement is the divine law is constantly in operation. So divine mind is present. So the superconscious is present right here, right now. And Janet's question, I think, can be dealt with in a different way, which is simply, I think, of the affirmation that Charles Fillmore used: Jesus Christ is here now, lifting me to his consciousness. Because the consciousness is present. It's actually all there is. And the thought that I am not in that consciousness is still part of that consciousness. And so I choose to bring myself into alignment with what's always already true, which is that there's only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God the good, omnipotent. And he says about going into the secret place. Sometimes we just go into the secret place when we feel frustrated and defeated and being a sinner, having that voice saying you're not, the voice that says you're not it's in the superconscious is from the superconscious, because that's all there is. And so it's the human mind, the human we talked a lot about this belief in duality, the belief in separation. I and God are separate. And Jesus says, I and the Father are one. And so it's the willingness to accept that appearances are deceptive, and even to accept that my belief system deep in my soul is that my belief that I'm separate deep in my soul is still divine. It's just that it's that willingness to make that affirmation or that intention. I intend to be in the Christ consciousness here and now. Because I think the question as you pose it, Janet, makes an assumption whose facts are not necessarily in evidence, which is that superconscious is somehow different from our direct experience. Well, what if it's not? What if
It's a scary thought.
This goes to what John said.
Scary that. Yes.
Yeah, let's tremble in fear. But it's like John said, if it's true that the Buddha's realization is everybody's already enlightened and they're just waiting for him, then I'm already enlightened and everybody's waiting for me, is the operative and practical statement. Not some guy who lived 2,500 years ago, right here, right now.
I would take that to like what Jesus, Jesus was obviously a Jew, and Jewish law, I mean, Jewish religion is very rich in a lot of understanding and talking about God. I don't know much about Judaism, but Jesus did. And he got it all of a sudden, that he read what they had to say, and then he got it. And he said, I'm not separate from this God that I've been reading about. And that's, the Father and I are one. He kind of melded that. He melded it and applied all this 4 bullets to, like, yes, right here, right now. As he woke up, like Buddha did. But it was like, that's what he got, was he saw that there was not a separation between he and God right now in this plane. He didn't have to die to achieve the oneness.
And
This
yet,
has all been very rich and very, very interesting to me today. Every week is, but this day particular. But now at the end, I'm feeling kind of miss the old days when if you went to mass and communion every day, didn't have to think about anything. You were in, you were
Yeah,
okay, and you
yeah.
had done your part. You were up there on the scale, and I always felt so righteous when I was in that phase of my life and thought, I'm such a good person.
Mhm.
Now I think, oh my God, what you don't know could just sink a ship. You guys make me laugh at myself. I love that.
You were in your right place right then, and you're in your right place right now.
It occurs to me as we're working through this that the divine mind is always present, or the superconscious. It's always there, but we don't really dial into it. But if each one of us stop and think about all the things as we go about our daily lives, that suddenly there's an issue and it resolves itself, and we say, "Oh, well, that's divine order." I think that the spirit and divine order is always there, and we're all connected to that. And I think there are times when we really uh, stop and connect to it. But other times, there's a lot of things that just as you go about the daily activities, they resolve themselves in so many ways, and just simple things that happen. Yesterday, we were concerned about what we were going to get in the way of a gift for one of our children, and wasn't any more thought about it. And I just happened to go into a store, pick up a catalog, and brought it home. And all of a sudden, there was the solution right there. And if that isn't I wasn't a super consciousness, but that moment that I was in the store and I decided to pick that up, the catalog, I wonder if that isn't divine consciousness telling me what to do to solve a problem. And I think that happens with us all day long. We just don't really stop and think about it or recognize it. But if we do take a moment to stop and think about all those things, then I think that sort of proves the point.
I once gave a talk at Capital City Unity that the purport of the talk was our only task is to say yes to God. So if the superconscious is always present and I'm not aware of it, I get to say yes to it. I can wake up and go, "Oh, yes, I'm in the superconscious." It's also the whole um, insight behind the golden key. Remember, Emmett Fox says, "Whenever there's a problem, take your eye off the problem and put it on God, because God's already there. God's in the problem. God's in the problem and the solution." So just what you said, the way I heard you say it, Belden, is just to let go and to say yes. And so no matter what the issue is that we're facing, where is God? Where can I find God? I think of that great hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul," which was written by a guy whose family was killed when their ship they were on sunk in a storm. And he was able to say, "It is well with my soul, even in the storm, even in the death of my family. There's God. That's all there is."
Wow.
So we're coming to the end of our time together. My friends, any last minute thoughts that we'd like to share with each other before we wrap up?
I'd just like to say thank you, Marty. I mean, it's really a gift of love and in Marty, Martyism, Marty-esque, to bring us together and to spend the time to do this because it's beyond the hour. I know your preparation goes beyond showing up and pulling up the Zoom. So really, it's so wonderful that we can all be together on Sunday morning to reflect on these things. And that you're our spiritual leader in this group. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And back at you.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, it's our habit to close
Oh,
up.
wait, I gotta say one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Welcome, Sydney. It's great that you are here. And John, I've met you before on another Zoom call somewhere in our relationship, but it's great to have both of you here. It's nice to see you, Gail, even though you didn't say anything, but I know you're thinking. And Kevin, good for you that you read. I was so proud of you. You did such a good job. Thank you. Do it again. And of course, Leo, it's wonderful to see you and Belden and Diane and my sister Lillian. Gosh, I'm so glad that Marty's back home. And how could I forget Janet? our shepherd with the cane.
Easy.
You're the one with the cane.
I'm the one with all the questions. Yeah. No, you're wonderful people. You're wonderful, very, I don't know. You're all super conscious, that's for sure.
Thank you.
I'll Thank you for that.
We know we're on the continuum. We have the knowledge that we're on the continuum.
Way up there. Yep.
I can't wait till next week because they kind of peeked at the next paragraph. So I'm ready to get more.
Well, you're with Janet. Janet often reads ahead and prepares and shames all the rest of us who don't do homework. So
no, you're all smart enough to read it and know what you're reading. I have to think, what are they saying?
What book is this from, Marty?
This is from the Unity Correspondence course.
Oh, okay.
And so just also, Sydney, if you would like for me to put you on our mailing list, I send a reminder out each week. I'd be happy to do that. I think I have your email address from Medella.
Yep, I would be delighted, Marty. Thank you.
Okay.
It's been really great.
And in that invitation, there's links to two things. Number one, there's a link to the text. So you can go to the text yourself, and John and Sydney, the link will take you not just to this particular lesson, but you can, because of the way Mark has it set up, you can actually access all the lessons.
Okay.
And then the second link is to the YouTube recording. So this is being recorded and it will be edited and uploaded to YouTube within a week or two. And if you want to review the lesson or you want to share it with other people, you can also do that through YouTube.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we end our time together by sharing the prayer for protection, the unity prayer, and let's start.
The light
of God surrounds us. The love of God upholds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Great week, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye.
Have a wonderful super conscious week.
Okay.